we are so happy to have you here with us, John. And it was great to have you speak at our last event right before the world shut down.
Yeah.
Here we are again, and we're thankful to have you come and speak again at NFT NYC. I'm glad you asked if you could share your screen for a moment. This is super engaging stuff. Why don't you introduce yourself and you press play on this video for a moment and let people see what you're all about, what you're working on.
So thanks so much for having me on here. Yes, happy to be back over at NFT NYC. I'm a video game developer, so what I'm showing right now is just the game that we're making, and we've been polishing this for some time. And since we're talking about NFTs, right? Excuse me. I have a video game that takes the ability to bring 3D NFTs into augmented reality. And we're doing a lot of cool things, work with some cool partners. So I'm actually showing this here just real quick, where the pet little pig that you saw just now with an actual Axie on its back, because we actually did a collaboration with Axie back in 2019, is now actually over here, and you're seeing in augmented reality. So when people are playing this game and they see something that's really cute, they're like, oh my God, that's so cute, I want that. Now, because NFTs are things that you can trade, I can say, well, here, I can give this to you for free, I can present it to you, or we can, do it for a certain price. So it's really fun because I think something that's been talked about lately in technology for NFTs is physicals. And so this is a term that I only recently came to be aware of, but I'll talk more about that. But anyway, the point is that I'm a game developer. I've worked for Japan's first ever blockchain game, and now I'm still making video games, and I'm bridging that into augmented reality. So that's pretty much the long and short of the video. Again, I'm sure it looks good. I'm sure it looks cute. You can see here how it's following me. And we can also do races live in augmented reality, multiplayer races. But thank you for that quick demo. And now we can go ahead and get down into more brass tacks.
Yeah. Well, you're in Japan working for a Japanese video game company. You and I have talked a lot about Japan.
Yeah.
So I think this will be a fun conversation. So let me ask about community.
Mm.
What is your take on decentralized Web3 communities around games and video games compared to your approach and your thought process on communities when all things were centralized? Just give me a little insight on that.
Well, I like how an easy way that people have been using communities and NFTs in terms of, if you have this NFT, you have access to our community. So that already makes the community really strong to be able to, begin to build for your product, but that goes outside of games. But more specifically for games, you see NFTs being this early access or alpha key, which I think is really nice. I think, the Axie Infinity example is if you wanted to play the mobile game that they had, or the desktop version, you had to have 3 Axies. That's the exact same concept of having something that had to be a pre-access element. And we're actually going to be doing something similar in our game, where it's like we work on this AR game, but if you want to play it, well, you either have to have a Krypton or maybe you have to have a certain item. So that allows individuals to be able to, take part in your game early, but also gives them the sense of community of being able to access your Discord or your group. And I think that that's going to be probably the strongest use case you're going to see for games and community being one-on-one forthcoming right now and also in the future.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So I'd love to know your thoughts on, so you're focused on game or NFTs for games.
Correct.
I think that so many verticals that can benefit from NFTs, what vertical do you think is going to be the largest use case for NFTs?
Is it bad if I say games? I don't know. It's really fun. I mean, I'd have to almost say art, because I started working at this video game studio in Japan in 2018. We started making games in 2019 that were blockchain related. People did not know about NFTs really in the big, in the large scape until maybe we can say this year in February, where there was a huge resurgence. And that was in art. But what's so funny to me is that I saw games using NFTs before I really saw art blow up. So I would actually say that just because of my experience, I would think art would still be your biggest vertical, because NFTs themselves are easiest to be minted as 2D items, right? JPEGs or whatever. So you're going to have more artists or more individuals making whatever it is they want on a 2D dimension, and so therefore you're kind of limited in what can that be. So then I would say art would really continuously be probably one of the heaviest usages of it. Though, I do think that as brands begin to kind of get into the space, they'll be able to utilize NFTs for, again, their communities or for, branding and marketing. So I would say really probably art, and then second would be really more of commerce or e-commerce, and hopefully third would be games. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
Cool.
I'm asking a little bit of a different question. You're in Japan. You've talked a lot about living in Japan part-time. When you think about the future of the NFT market specific to people and companies that are connected to, either headquartered at, or at least have a satellite presence in Japan,
Mhm.
if I say to you the future, like NFT 2024,
Hmm.
what type of ecosystem are you anticipating to be built in and around Japanese freelancers, Japanese corporations, anyone that's connected to that culture? Because you have a unique insight in that you work for a Japanese video game company. So maybe you could give us some unique insights on the future specific to a geographic location and a certain, culture of people.
Sure. Okay, I believe I can answer that. But the first thing I have to correct, though, is currently I'm not in Japan.
Okay,
I'm over in the United States. I'm actually in Michigan. That was for a variety of reasons, family, for business, and also it makes more sense because NFT is right around the corner, so I can just go to New York as opposed to flying from Japan and having to
Right.
quarantine and all that jazz. But I did work for two video game studios. Both of them were involved in blockchain, so at blockchain games. So the ecosystem as it relates to Japan in terms of the adoption of NFTs, I'm not really sure how I can speak on for a conference, but I can say that, block as much as Japan was almost kind of a leader in cryptocurrency in the beginning when, Bitcoin was going crazy over there, it has become to be a lot more regulated by the Japanese government, the Financial Services Agency, FSA. So unfortunately, that's kind of slowed the adoption of cryptocurrency as a plausible means of financial settlement and buying things in Japan. NFTs have been more broadly adopted, however, in the private sector of things like companies like Bandai, Square Enix. What's another one that's escaping me right now that I should definitely know off the top of my head? Line's another one, and actually interesting about Line, but I'll say that in a minute. So you're seeing companies really just the same thing as we're seeing over here of making NFTs, but of what? In this case, again, games are big over in Japan. So where are we seeing NFTs be integrated first into Japanese culture again through games? Okay, so now we have Square Enix games, or we have old games that are re-bringing their IPs, like you're going to see Zelda or Mario come back in to be remixed in the form of an NFT. So you're seeing that kind of penetration of NFTs into the Japanese culture. Not as opposed of really events yet, but again, it's still kind of more focused on games, which is one of the reasons why I went to Japan to work on the video game industry. There is one more interesting tidbit, though, is that there's a platform called Line. You guys know about Japan, so you know Line, the messaging app, right?
Yeah.
Over in for those who don't know, it's the largest app or messaging app that's used over in Japan, really over in Asia, in terms of Korea as well. WeChat's big in China. We over here in the West use WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, right? So Line has their own blockchain as well. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how like 75% of the population uses Line, and they have their own blockchain they're going to be integrating into, their application. So then you're going to have individuals really utilizing Line for their discounts, for clothing, for buying things, for social games, for chatting, for stickers, and all of those little bits are going to come to have an NFT element as well, hopefully sooner than later. But that's really something cool, and I'm actually hoping to partner them in relation with this game as well. But I would say that really follow Line if you're interested to see how blockchain is going to be adapted into Japanese culture, because it's their major messaging app and they're trying to expand upon it over there. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad I asked you because that gave something that I wouldn't have anticipated, which is a call to action for people to take a look at. For those that are watching this live or see the archive, thank you for your attention. My name's Ian Utilia. I'm one of the co-producers at NFT NYC, and we have amazing people like John here that we invite to speak at our conference year after year because he's a thought leader that really allows us, the community, to see and understand things that we may not have easy access to. So again, John, thanks for jumping in, and I look forward to seeing you in New York soon.
Yeah, thanks.